The wheelchair-bound son of a millionaire is left for dead, tied to a log in the middle of nowhere. When all seems lost, a poor, silent girl watches him from a distance, unsure whether to approach him. With a rusty pocket knife in her hands and a look of mistrust in her eyes, she makes a decision that changes both their fates. If this story interested you, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and tell us what city you're watching us from. We'll keep going. The scorching Mojave Desert sun beat down mercilessly as 12-year-old Ethan Montgomery regained consciousness, his head throbbing with pain. His wrists burned where coarse ropes bit into his skin, binding him to a dead Joshua tree. Confusion gave way to panic as memories flooded back. The black SUV outside his private school, the cloth pressed against his face, then darkness. "Help!" he screamed, his voice immediately swallowed by the vast emptiness. "Somebody, please!" Ethan pulled desperately at the ropes, his upper body strong from years of wheelchair sports, but the bindings held firm. His specialized wheelchair, a $15,000 carbon fiber model his father had imported from Switzerland, was nowhere in sight. Without it, he was stranded, his legs useless since the childhood illness that had taken his mobility at age 4. The Montgomery name adorned buildings across Los Angeles, hospitals, research centers, tech campuses. His father, Richard Montgomery, had built Montgomery Innovations from a garage startup into a multi-billion-dollar tech empire. The family lived in a mansion in Bel Air with security systems that would make the Pentagon jealous. Yet here he was, abandoned in the desert like discarded trash. Night fell, bringing bitter cold that made his teeth chatter. Stars appeared in impossible numbers, beautiful and indifferent to his suffering. By morning, his lips were cracked, his voice a raspy whisper. The second day passed in a haze of delirium as dehydration took hold. Ethan drifted in and out of consciousness, hallucinating his mother. Gone 5 years now after cancer took her, sitting beside him, stroking his sun-blistered face. On the third morning, he saw a small figure on the horizon. Another hallucination, he thought, until it moved closer, resolving into a girl, perhaps 10 or 11, with wild, tangled hair and clothes that hung from her thin frame in tattered layers. She approached with the wariness of a desert fox, stopping several yards away to study him. Her skin was deeply tanned, her eyes dark and wary beneath a fringe of uneven bangs that looked self-cut. "Water," Ethan croaked. "Please." The girl disappeared behind a cluster of rocks. Ethan's heart sank, thinking she'd fled, but minutes later she returned, clutching a plastic bottle with a few inches of cloudy liquid. She crept closer, her eyes never leaving his face until she was near enough to place the bottle at his feet. "I can't," Ethan gestured weakly at his bound hands, then his legs. "I can't walk." Understanding dawned in her eyes. She hesitated, then reached into her pocket and pulled out a rusted pocket knife. The blade looked dull, but she worked methodically at the ropes until they gave way. Ethan collapsed forward, his arms numb and tingling as circulation returned. The girl backed away immediately, knife still in hand, watching as he dragged himself to the water bottle. The lukewarm liquid tasted like salvation. "Thank you," he whispered. "I'm Ethan. What's your name?" She didn't respond, just watched him with those intense, evaluating eyes. "Where do you live? Is there a town nearby? A phone?" His questions were met with silence. "Please, I need to call my dad." After a long moment, she approached again and pointed to the distant mountains. "You live there?" Ethan asked. She nodded once, then gestured at him, then back toward the mountains. "You want me to go with you?" Another nod. "I can't walk. My legs don't work." The girl's eyes narrowed thoughtfully. She held up one finger in a wait gesture and disappeared again. This time she was gone longer, almost an hour, during which Ethan began to fear she wouldn't return. The sun climbed higher, burning his already raw skin. When she finally reappeared, she was dragging a strange contraption, what looked like an old skateboard deck attached to a wooden board with mismatched wheels fastened underneath. She positioned it beside him and pantomimed, pushing it. "A makeshift wheelchair." Ethan smiled weakly. "Engineering runs in my family too." With considerable effort and the girl's reluctant assistance, Ethan managed to haul himself onto the crude device. It was uncomfortable and barely functional, but it rolled across the desert floor when pushed. The girl grabbed a length of frayed rope attached to the front and began pulling him toward the mountains. They traveled slowly, the girl pausing occasionally to offer him sips from the water bottle. As they moved, Ethan studied her. Despite her wild appearance, there was intelligence in her eyes and purpose in her movements. She navigated the desert terrain with the confidence of someone who knew every rock and cactus. "How long have you been out here?" he asked, not expecting an answer. To his surprise, she held up 4 fingers. 4 days? Weeks? She shook her head. Years? She nodded. Alone? Another nod. Near sunset, they approached what appeared to be a junkyard of abandoned vehicles. At its center sat an old school bus, its yellow paint bleached almost white by the sun. The windows were covered with scraps of fabric and metal. The girl pulled Ethan toward it, up a ramp made of wooden planks that led to the bus door. Inside, the bus had been transformed. The seats were removed, replaced with piles of scavenged items, organized with surprising orderliness: clothes, tools, books, canned goods. In one corner was a nest of blankets and pillows. Solar-powered camping lanterns hung from the ceiling, casting a soft glow as darkness fell. The girl rummaged through her supplies and produced a dented can of beans and a plastic spoon. She pried it open with practiced efficiency and handed it to Ethan. "Thank you," he said, the enormity of his situation hitting him anew. "You saved my life." She acknowledged this with a slight inclination of her head, then sat cross-legged on the floor across from him, watching as he ate. When he finished, she brought him a bottle of cleaner water and some faded rags. With careful movements, she demonstrated cleaning his rope-burned wrists and sunburned face. Her touch was tentative but gentle. "What's your name?" Ethan tried again. "I'd like to know what to call you." The girl hesitated, then moved to a stack of books in the corner. She pulled one out, a worn copy of To Kill a Mockingbird, and pointed to the author's name. "Harper?" Ethan asked. She nodded. "Your name is Harper?" A hint of a smile crossed her face, the first he'd seen. She reached for a piece of cardboard and a stub of pencil, writing in careful, unpracticed letters, "They call me Harper." "Who's they?" Ethan asked, but she just shrugged and turned away. That night, Harper gave Ethan the nest of blankets while she slept near the bus door, knife in hand. Despite his exhaustion and pain, sleep came fitfully to Ethan. His thoughts raced with questions about this strange, silent girl who lived alone in an abandoned bus in the desert, who had saved him when she had every reason to fear or ignore him. In the pale pre-dawn light, he watched her sleeping form, curled like a comma, one hand still gripping the knife. Whatever had happened to bring her here, whatever had taught her such caution and resilience, Ethan knew his life was now irrevocably linked with hers. He had been rescued by a desert ghost, a girl who had carved survival from the most unforgiving landscape imaginable. Over the next 2 days, Ethan and Harper fell into an unexpected rhythm. She would disappear for hours, returning with scavenged treasures: more water, a candy bar still in its wrapper, a slightly bruised apple. Ethan's strength gradually returned, though without proper medication and care. His body ached in ways it hadn't since his early days of physical therapy. Harper remained mostly silent, communicating through gestures and the occasional written word. But her actions spoke volumes. She fashioned a better rolling board for him, using parts from abandoned bicycles in the junkyard, creating a crude but more effective mobility device. She showed him how she collected morning dew from certain plants and which cacti could be safely cut open for moisture. On the 3rd morning, Ethan broached the subject that had been weighing on his mind. "Harper, I need to contact my family. They must be looking for me." He gestured toward the mountains. "Is there any place with cell service around here?" She considered this, then nodded slowly. Using her cardboard and pencil, she drew a crude map showing the bus, a ridge of rocks, and a high point marked with an X. "You know where there's reception?" Ethan asked. "Can we go there?" Harper's expression clouded. She wrote, "Not safe." "Not safe for who, me or you?" When she didn't respond, Ethan pressed on. "Harper, people must be looking for me. My father has probably called the FBI by now." At the mention of authorities, Harper's posture stiffened. She shook her head vigorously and wrote, "No police." "Why? What are you afraid of?" Harper stared at him for a long moment, then turned to a battered metal toolbox. From it, she withdrew a worn photograph, its edges soft from handling. She handed it to Ethan. The photo showed a woman with Harper's same dark eyes, standing in front of what looked like an office building. She wore a lab coat with a Montgomery Innovations ID badge clipped to the pocket. "She worked for my father's company," Ethan asked, stunned. Harper took back the photo, touching the woman's face gently before returning it to the toolbox. She wrote, "Mum, gone. What happened to her?" Harper's face darkened. She scribbled, "Men took her. Never came back." Ethan felt a chill that had nothing to do with the desert night. "When?" Harper held up 4 fingers again. 4 years she'd been alone in this desert. "And you've been hiding ever since?" Ethan asked softly. "From the men who took your mum?" She nodded, her eyes haunted. "Harper," Ethan said gently, "I have a friend. Her name is Jessica. She's a police officer now, but we grew up together. I trust her with my life. If I can reach her, she can help us both." Harper's expression remained dubious, but something in Ethan's tone must have reached her. After a long moment, she nodded reluctantly and pointed to her map. "Tomorrow?" Ethan asked. "Can we try tomorrow?" Another nod. That night, Ethan dreamed of his mother. Not the thin, pale version consumed by cancer in her final days, but the vibrant scientist who had inspired his own love of engineering. In the dream, she was showing him something important, pointing urgently at papers on her desk, but he couldn't make out what they said. He woke with a start to find Harper already awake, preparing for their journey. She had filled water bottles, packed a small bag with food, and fashioned a wide-brimmed hat from scraps for Ethan's sun protection. The trek to the ridge was arduous. Harper had modified Ethan's rolling board with a harness that allowed her to pull him more efficiently. But the terrain grew increasingly rocky and steep. Several times Ethan had to drag himself across sections where the makeshift wheelchair couldn't navigate, Harper hovering nearby, ready to help but respectful of his determination to manage himself. By midday, they reached the base of a rocky outcropping. Harper pointed upward, indicating they needed to climb higher. "I can't make it up there," Ethan said, frustration edging his voice. Harper studied the rocks, then disappeared briefly, returning with a long, sturdy branch. She demonstrated how it could be used as a lever to help hoist himself upward. With painful slowness and Harper's steady assistance, Ethan dragged himself up the ridge. His arms burned with exertion, his useless legs scraping against the rocks. But a lifetime of adapting to his disability had made him resilient. When they finally reached the summit, Ethan was sweating and exhausted, but triumphant. Harper pointed to an old cell phone she pulled from her pocket, a basic model, scratched and worn. "Where did you get that?" Ethan asked. She pantomimed finding it in the junkyard. She turned it on, revealing a cracked screen but a functioning device. A single bar of service flickered at the top. Ethan took the phone with trembling hands. "It works up here?" Harper nodded, but held up one finger in warning. She wrote, "Battery old, short call." Ethan nodded, then carefully dialed Jessica's number from memory, praying she hadn't changed it since they last spoke. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Ethan's heart sank. Then, "Detective Martinez speaking." "Jess," Ethan's voice cracked. "It's Ethan Montgomery." A stunned silence, then, "Ethan? Oh my God, where are you? Everyone's looking for you." "I'm in the desert, Jess. I was kidnapped and left to die, but this girl found me. Her name is Harper. She saved my life." "Are you hurt? Give me your location." "I don't know exactly where we are." He looked to Harper, who reluctantly pointed to a distant water tower visible from their perch. "There's a water tower. And an abandoned vehicle junkyard. We're in the Mojave somewhere." "That helps. The search teams have been combing the desert for days. Your father's offered $1 million reward." The phone began to beep, indicating a low battery. "Jess, listen, this is important. Harper lives out here alone. Her mother worked for Montgomery Innovations and disappeared 4 years ago. I think there's a connection. I need you to come alone. No uniforms, no helicopters. She's scared." "Ethan, that's not protocol for a missing person. Promise me, Jess, just you first. Once we trust you, you can bring others." The phone beeped more urgently. "Okay," Jessica relented. "I'll try. It might take me a few hours to track that water tower. Can you stay where you are?" "No, we'll be at Harper's place, the old school bus in the junkyard. You can't miss it." "Ethan, be careful. The kidnapping might be connected to the threats your father's been—" The phone died, cutting off Jessica's warning. Harper quickly took the dead phone, her expression a mixture of fear and resignation. She scribbled, "We go back now." The descent was easier than the climb, though still challenging. By the time they reached the junkyard, the sun was beginning its westward slide. Harper moved with new urgency, gathering her most important possessions into a small backpack. "You don't have to run," Ethan said. "Jessica will help us." Harper wrote, "Not safe here now." "Because of the phone call?" Ethan asked. Harper, "No one can track that call. The battery's dead." She shook her head and wrote, "Always watching." Ethan felt a chill. "Who's watching?" Before Harper could answer, they heard the distant sound of an engine. Harper froze, then extinguished the solar lamp and moved to the bus window, peering out cautiously. A dust cloud approached along the distant dirt road, gradually resolving into a single vehicle, a battered pickup truck with faded police markings. "It's Jessica!" Ethan exclaimed. "That was fast. She must have already been searching this area." Harper remained tense, knife in hand, positioned between Ethan and the door. The truck stopped a respectful distance from the bus. A woman emerged, Jessica Martinez, still recognizable as the girl who had pushed Ethan's wheelchair on playground adventures, now in plain clothes with a detective's badge clipped to her belt. Her dark hair was pulled back in a practical ponytail, her expression a mixture of professional calm and personal concern. "Ethan," she called, "it's Jess. I came alone like you asked." Harper shot Ethan a questioning look. "It's okay," he reassured her. "She's my friend. We can trust her." Harper hesitated, then slowly lowered the knife, though she didn't put it away. She moved to the bus door and opened it cautiously. Jessica approached slowly, hands visible. "You must be Harper," she said gently. "Thank you for saving my friend." Harper nodded once, her posture still wary. "May I come in?" Jessica asked. After a moment's hesitation, Harper stepped aside. When Jessica saw Ethan, sunburned, rope-marked, sitting on a makeshift rolling board, her professional composure cracked. "Oh, Ethan," she whispered, kneeling beside him. "What happened to you?" "It's a long story," Ethan replied, "but Harper's is longer, and I think they might be connected." The journey back to Los Angeles unfolded in tense silence. Jessica had insisted on taking Ethan to a hospital first, but he'd refused, not wanting to subject Harper to institutional spaces that clearly terrified her. They compromised with a visit to a rural urgent care clinic where Ethan's wounds were cleaned and dressed, his dehydration addressed with IV fluids, and his regular medications were prescribed. Throughout the examination, Harper remained a shadow at the periphery, refusing to be touched or registered. When a well-meaning nurse approached her with intake forms, she'd retreated behind Jessica, trembling but defiant. The detective had smoothly intervened, explaining the situation in professional terms that satisfied the medical staff without revealing too much. Now, as Jessica's truck approached the glittering sprawl of Los Angeles, Harper pressed herself against the door, eyes wide at the overwhelming city lights. She clutched her small backpack containing her few treasures: the photo of her mother, the rusted pocket knife, a notebook filled with careful observations of desert life, and a tattered copy of To Kill a Mockingbird. "We're not going to my father's house," Ethan stated firmly from the back seat, where he reclined on pillows the clinic had provided. It wasn't a question. Jessica glanced at him in the rearview mirror. "I've arranged a safe house. It's a condo the department uses for witnesses. Nobody knows about it except my captain, and I trust her with my life." "Does my father know I've been found?" "Yes, but I told him you need medical stabilization before visitors. It bought us 24 hours. Harper wrote something on her notepad and showed it to Ethan. "Harper wants to know if there are cameras," Ethan translated. "At the condo? No surveillance inside, just a doorman and lobby security. We'll enter through the garage." Jessica's voice softened. "Harper, I promise you're safe with us." The girl's expression remained skeptical. The condo was on the 15th floor of a sleek high-rise downtown. Harper refused to enter the elevator, so Jessica stayed with her to walk up the stairs, while a building security officer helped Ethan up in his temporary wheelchair from the clinic. By the time the women arrived, Ethan had already begun exploring the spacious two-bedroom apartment. "This place is nicer than most safe houses I've seen on TV," he commented. "It's usually reserved for high-profile witnesses," Jessica explained, setting down her keys. "Though technically you both qualify as witnesses now." Harper moved cautiously through the space, testing doors to ensure they opened, checking windows, examining locks. Her survival instincts, honed by years of self-preservation, wouldn't be easily set aside. Jessica ordered food, pizza, which Harper approached with suspicious fascination, before devouring 3 slices in quick succession. After dinner, with Harper finally relaxed enough to shower, though she insisted on keeping the bathroom door cracked open, Jessica and Ethan spoke in low voices on the balcony. "Tell me everything," Jessica said, her professional demeanor giving way to the concern of an old friend. Ethan recounted his kidnapping, the abandonment in the desert, and Harper's rescue. "They took my phone, my medical alert bracelet, everything that could identify me. They wanted me to disappear." "Did you see their faces?" "No, they wore masks. But I've been thinking, this wasn't random, Jess. They knew who I was, knew about my condition. They took my wheelchair to ensure I couldn't escape." Jessica nodded grimly. "Your father's received threats over the past year. Corporate espionage, extortion attempts. Nothing that seemed serious enough to warrant this level of response." "What about Harper's mother?" "She worked for Montgomery Innovations. I've started preliminary searches based on the photo Harper showed you. No hits yet on missing persons databases." Jessica hesitated. "Ethan, you need to prepare yourself. If she disappeared 4 years ago and was never reported missing." "I know what that usually means," Ethan said quietly. "But for Harper's sake, we need to find the truth, whatever it is." Inside, they found Harper curled in an armchair, hair damp from her shower, wearing a set of Jessica's old LAPD training clothes that swallowed her small frame. Despite her evident exhaustion, she remained vigilant, eyes tracking their movements as they re-entered. "Tomorrow," Jessica said, addressing them both, "we need to make decisions. Your father will demand to see you, Ethan, and Harper," she gentled her voice, "we need to contact child services." Harper's response was immediate and visceral. She shot from the chair, grabbing her backpack, moving toward the door. "No!" Ethan called out. "Harper, wait!" She froze, hand on the doorknob, her entire body radiating the tension of a cornered animal. "I won't let them take you," Ethan promised. "I've been thinking about this since you saved me. My family has a dozen spare bedrooms. You could stay with us." Harper's expression was a complex mixture of longing and disbelief. Jessica frowned. "Ethan, that's not how the system works. There are procedures, evaluations. My father's name is on half the buildings in this city," Ethan interrupted, "including the one housing the family court. We can make it work." He met Harper's gaze. "You saved my life. Let me help save yours." Later that night, after Harper had finally succumbed to sleep in one of the bedrooms, though she'd pushed a dresser in front of the door, Jessica confronted Ethan. "You're talking about adoption. That's a massive commitment, not a thank you gift." "It's not just gratitude," Ethan insisted. "You didn't see her out there, Jess. She's been surviving on her own in conditions that would break most adults. She's extraordinary. She's also deeply traumatized and distrustful of authority. All the more reason she shouldn't go into the system." Ethan's voice hardened. "We both know what happens to kids with behavioral issues. Foster home to foster home, medications to keep them compliant." Jessica sighed, running a hand through her hair. "And you think your father, Richard Montgomery, corporate titan and workaholic, is going to welcome a wild desert child into his perfectly controlled world? He'll do it for me." Ethan's confidence wavered slightly. "After nearly losing me, he'll do anything I ask." The next morning brought Richard Montgomery himself to their door, having evidently leveraged his considerable influence to discover their location. Jessica had barely enough time to warn them before the doorman called up. Richard burst into the apartment like a force of nature. Tall, impeccably dressed in a tailored suit, despite the early hour, his silver hair perfectly styled. At 55, he still maintained the physique of a man who considered physical weakness a personal failure. When he saw Ethan, however, his commanding presence crumbled. "Son," he breathed, crossing the room in 3 long strides to embrace Ethan. For a moment, they were simply father and son, the powerful CEO reduced to a parent, grateful for his child's safe return. Harper observed this reunion from the kitchen doorway, half hidden, assessing. When Richard finally composed himself, his executive persona reasserted itself. "The company jet is fueled and waiting. We'll have you home within the hour. Dr. Patel is standing by for a full examination." "Dad," Ethan began carefully, "there's someone I want you to meet first." He gestured toward Harper, who stepped reluctantly into view. Richard's brow furrowed as he took in her appearance. The too large borrowed clothes, the guarded expression, the untamed hair. "This is Harper," Ethan said. "She saved my life." Richard's confusion was evident. "This child found you in the desert. She didn't just find me. She cut me free, built me a wheelchair, gave me her food and water. I wouldn't be alive without her." Richard's expression softened marginally. He reached for his wallet. "Of course, we're tremendously grateful, perhaps a reward." "She doesn't need money, Dad. She needs a home." Ethan took a deep breath. "I want us to adopt her." The silence that followed was absolute. Richard stared at his son as if he'd suggested they fly to Mars for lunch. "That's not possible," he finally said, his voice carefully measured. "There are proper channels for children in need. I'll make some calls. Ensure she's placed with a good family." "No." Ethan's tone matched his father's in determination. "She stays with me. After what I've been through, I think you owe me this." Richard's jaw tightened at the emotional leverage, but before he could respond, Harper stepped forward and handed him the photograph of her mother. Richard took it automatically, then froze as recognition dawned in his eyes. "Where did you get this?" he demanded, his voice suddenly harsh. Harper retreated a step, but her gaze remained steady on his face. "That's her mother," Ethan explained. "She worked for Montgomery Innovations. She disappeared 4 years ago, and Harper's been surviving alone ever since." Richard's complexion had paled noticeably. He handed the photo back with a hand that wasn't quite steady. "I need to make some calls." He stepped onto the balcony, phone already at his ear, voice too low to overhear. "He recognized her," Jessica observed quietly. "Of course he did," Ethan replied. "Dad prides himself on knowing every employee, especially in the research divisions." When Richard returned, his expression was unreadable. "I've arranged for my security team to transport you both to the house. Detective Martinez, I appreciate your assistance, but this is now a family matter." Jessica crossed her arms. "With all due respect, Mr. Montgomery, Harper is still a minor without legal guardianship. I can't just—" "I've already spoken with your captain and the district attorney," Richard interrupted smoothly. "Given the unusual circumstances, they've agreed to a temporary emergency placement while the proper paperwork is processed. My legal team is handling it." Jessica looked like she wanted to object further, but the mention of her captain gave her pause. "I'll need to verify that." "By all means." Richard gestured magnanimously toward her phone. While Jessica made her calls, Richard approached Harper with a different demeanor, cautious, almost respectful. "I knew your mother," he said quietly. "Elena Vasquez was a brilliant research scientist. Her work on sustainable energy storage was groundbreaking." Harper's eyes widened at her mother's name. "If you'll come with us, I promise we'll find out what happened to her." He extended his hand, not to touch her but as an offer. "You'll be safe in our home." Harper looked to Ethan, who nodded encouragingly. After a long moment, she placed her small hand in Richard's much larger one, not trusting, not yet, but willing to take the risk. As they prepared to leave, a sleek black SUV pulled up outside. Harper immediately tensed at the sight of it, too similar to the vehicle that had taken Ethan. "It's okay," Ethan reassured her. "That's just my father's security team." But as they approached the vehicle, Harper's steps slowed, her eyes fixed on the man emerging from the passenger seat, tall, lean, with calculating eyes and a smile that never reached them. He wore an expensive suit and a Montgomery Innovations ID badge. "Mr. Montgomery," he greeted Richard smoothly. "So pleased you found your son." "Warren Blake," Richard introduced him to Jessica, head of corporate communications and public relations. He'll be managing the media fallout from this ordeal. As Warren's gaze fell on Harper, something flickered in his eyes. Recognition quickly masked. Harper shrank back, pressing against Ethan's wheelchair. "And who's this?" Warren asked, his voice pleasant but his eyes cold. "This is Harper," Richard replied. "She'll be staying with us for a while." Warren's smile tightened almost imperceptibly. "How wonderful. The press will love this heartwarming development." Harper tugged at Ethan's sleeve, then scribbled frantically in her notebook. "Bad man." Ethan looked from the note to Warren's perfectly composed face, then back to Harper's frightened eyes. In that moment, a suspicion took root, one that would change everything. The Montgomery estate sprawled across 5 acres in Bel Air, a modern fortress of glass and steel hidden behind high walls and security gates. As the SUV pulled through the elaborate entrance, Harper pressed her face to the window, eyes wide at the manicured gardens and Olympic-sized swimming pool that came into view. For Ethan, the mansion had never felt like a true home, especially after his mother's passing. Its cavernous rooms and perfect symmetry held a sterile quality that had only intensified since he'd been left alone with his father and a rotating staff of housekeepers, nurses, and security personnel. Now, watching Harper take in the opulence with a mixture of awe and apprehension, Ethan saw his privileged world through new eyes. What must this place seem like to someone who had called a rusted school bus home? "Your room is being prepared," Richard informed Harper as they entered the vast marble foyer. "In the meantime, Mrs. Winters can help you get settled." The housekeeper appeared as if summoned by magic, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She approached Harper with a gentle smile, but the girl darted behind Ethan's wheelchair, eyeing the woman warily. "It's okay," Ethan assured her. "Mrs. Winters has been with us since I was little. She makes the best chocolate chip cookies in California." Harper remained unconvinced, her hand clutching the strap of her backpack. "Perhaps Harper would be more comfortable if Ethan showed her around first," Richard suggested, with uncharacteristic sensitivity. "Mrs. Winters, please ensure lunch is ready in an hour." With the adults dispersed, Ethan gave Harper a tour of the mansion's first floor, narrating as they moved through spaces larger than Harper's entire bus home. "That's the formal dining room. We never use it except for business dinners. The kitchen's through there. Mrs. Winters will let you raid the fridge anytime. The media room has every streaming service and gaming system known to mankind." Harper followed silently, her fingers occasionally reaching out to touch something: the soft fabric of a couch, the cool surface of a marble countertop, the spine of a leather-bound book, before quickly withdrawing as if afraid of leaving fingerprints on this perfect world. They took the elevator to the second floor. "My room's down there," Ethan pointed down one hallway. "Dad's suite is on the opposite wing. You'll probably be somewhere in between." He hesitated before opening the next door. "This was my mom's studio. She was a painter before she got sick." The room remained untouched since Grace Montgomery's passing. Easels still positioned by the windows, half-finished canvases covered with cloths, brushes cleaned and arranged in perfect rows. Ethan rarely entered this space, but something told him Harper needed to see it. A reminder that this house had once held warmth and creativity. Harper moved through the studio reverently, stopping before a large portrait partially visible beneath its covering. She glanced at Ethan, a question in her eyes. "You can look," he said. She carefully lifted the cloth to reveal a stunning portrait of a younger Ethan, perhaps 7 or 8, seated in his wheelchair on a beach, his face lifted toward the sun, laughing. The painting captured not his disability, but his joy, the freedom he felt despite his physical limitations. "She understood me," Ethan said quietly. "She never saw the wheelchair first." Harper nodded, a moment of perfect comprehension passing between them. The tour continued to the third floor, where Richard had installed an advanced engineering workshop for Ethan's projects. "Dad thought if I couldn't use my legs, I should develop my brain twice as much," Ethan explained with a hint of bitterness. Harper examined the 3D printers, computer stations, and half-assembled robotics projects with genuine interest. She picked up a small mechanical arm, testing its joints with surprising dexterity. "You like building things?" Ethan asked. Harper nodded, then wrote, "Fixed radios, solar chargers in bus. Maybe we could work on something together," Ethan suggested, a spark of excitement in his voice. "I've been designing improvements for my wheelchair, but I could use a fresh perspective." For the first time since they'd left the desert, Harper smiled. A small, cautious thing, but unmistakably real. Their moment of connection was interrupted by Warren Blake, appearing silently in the doorway. "Touching tour," he commented, his voice smooth as oil. "Your father asked me to inform you that lunch is ready." Harper's smile vanished, her body tensing visibly. Ethan moved his wheelchair subtly, positioning himself between her and Warren. "We'll be right down," he replied, matching Warren's cool tone. As Warren departed, Ethan turned to Harper. "Why does he scare you so much?" Harper hesitated, then wrote, "Saw him before. With men who took Mom." Ethan's blood ran cold. "You're sure?" She nodded emphatically, then added, "Different hair, same eyes. We need to tell my dad." Harper shook her head frantically, writing, "No proof. He won't believe." "He might. He recognized your mom's photo." Harper's expression remained doubtful, but she didn't resist as Ethan led them back to the elevator. Lunch was a stilted affair. Richard attempted conversation, but was constantly interrupted by calls about the company's plummeting stock, a result of the negative publicity surrounding Ethan's kidnapping. Warren remained at the table, ostensibly to discuss media strategy, his presence causing Harper to eat almost nothing, despite the array of foods Mrs. Winters had prepared. After lunch, a parade of professionals arrived, a doctor to check Ethan's condition, a social worker to assess Harper, attorneys to discuss the temporary guardianship arrangements. Through it all, Harper remained largely silent, answering questions with nods or headshakes, or by writing minimal responses. The social worker clearly found her behavior concerning, but was too intimidated by Richard's presence to push too hard. By evening, exhaustion had settled over the household. Richard retreated to his study with Warren, leaving Ethan and Harper in the media room, where they watched nature documentaries. Harper's wide-eyed fascination with footage of ocean life, revealing how limited her exposure to the world had been. When Mrs. Winters showed Harper to her room, a guest suite hastily converted with new bedding and clothes, the girl stood frozen in the doorway, overwhelmed by the space and luxury. "I'll be right across the hall if you need anything," Ethan assured her. Still, he wasn't surprised when, around midnight, he heard his door creak open. Harper stood in the doorway, blanket wrapped around her shoulders, her expression lost. "Can't sleep?" Ethan asked gently. She shook her head, then wrote, "Too soft, too quiet." Ethan understood immediately. After years in the desert, with only the sounds of wind and wildlife, the insulated silence of the mansion must feel suffocating. And after sleeping on the hard floor of a bus, the plush mattress would feel alien. "Want to camp out in here?" he offered. Harper nodded gratefully. She arranged her blanket on the floor beside Ethan's bed, curling up on the hardwood rather than using the cushions he offered. Within minutes, her breathing had steadied into sleep. Ethan watched her for a moment. This fierce, resilient girl who had saved his life and was now adrift in his world. "I'll protect you too," he whispered. "I promise." Days passed in a blur of adjustments. Harper struggled with the most basic aspects of modern life. Automatic faucets startled her. The shower's multiple jets confused her, and the constant presence of staff made her jumpy and withdrawn. She refused to surrender her knife, keeping it always within reach, often sleeping with it under her pillow. Richard made efforts to accommodate her, but his patience clearly strained as her presence complicated the narrative he was crafting for the press. The official story, that Ethan had been kidnapped by unknown assailants and rescued by a homeless child, who would now be taken in by the generous Montgomerys, played well in the media. But Harper's continued wariness, her refusal to speak, and her habit of disappearing for hours within the massive house made Richard increasingly uncomfortable. A week after their arrival, Ethan found Harper hiding in his mother's studio, methodically organizing paints by color. He noticed she'd been crying. "What's wrong?" he asked, rolling his wheelchair beside her. She handed him her notebook. She'd written, "Heard your father and bad man talking about me." "What did they say?" "Warren said I'm liability. Said my mother was handled. Your father looked worried." Ethan felt sick. "We need to find out what happened to your mom, and we need proof about Warren." Harper nodded, determination replacing fear in her eyes. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, they put their plan into action. Harper, silent and nimble as a shadow, slipped into Richard's study, while Ethan kept watch in the hallway, a tablet computer in his lap, monitoring the security cameras he'd hacked into. Harper photographed documents with a small camera Ethan had given her, focusing on folders labeled with her mother's name. She was about to access Richard's computer when Ethan's urgent text alert stopped her. Warren was approaching the study from the guest wing. She barely made it out through the connecting bathroom before Warren entered, carrying a leather portfolio and looking troubled. Through the crack in the bathroom door, she watched as he went straight to a painting on the wall, swung it aside to reveal a safe, and entered a combination. From the safe, he removed a flash drive, which he connected to Richard's computer. He worked quickly, deleting files, his face illuminated by the blue screen glow. When he finished, he returned the drive to the safe, carefully repositioned the painting, and left. Harper waited 5 minutes, then slipped back to Ethan's room, her heart pounding. "Did you get anything?" Ethan whispered. She nodded, showing him the camera. The photos were dark but legible, personnel files, project reports, and most significantly a memo about Project Eclipse, with both Elena Vasquez and Warren Blake listed as key personnel. "We need to decode what this means," Ethan said, downloading the images to his computer. "And we need to get into that safe." "Not safe," Harper wrote, her hand trembling slightly. "Warren is dangerous." "That's why we need evidence," Ethan insisted. "Dad won't act without it. He's a businessman first, always has been." Harper's expression remained doubtful, but she nodded reluctantly. As they worked into the night, examining the documents, Harper suddenly stiffened. She wrote, "Here's something." Ethan listened but heard nothing. Harper's desert-honed senses were far more acute than his. She moved to the window, peering out cautiously at the manicured grounds below. A figure moved across the lawn. Warren, phone to his ear, gesturing emphatically as he spoke. Even from a distance, his body language communicated anger and urgency. "What's he doing out there at 2 a.m.? Ethan wondered. Harper's answer was simple and chilling. Planning. The next morning, Richard announced that Warren would be moving into the guest house to better manage the ongoing PR situation. Harper's distress was immediate and visceral. She refused to leave Ethan's room, barricading the door with a chair when Mrs. Winters tried to coax her out for breakfast. "She's not adjusting well," Richard commented when he and Ethan finally had a moment alone. "Perhaps we should consider other arrangements." "You mean send her away?" Ethan asked incredulously. "After she saved my life?" "Of course we'd ensure she's well provided for. A good boarding school, perhaps." "No," Ethan interrupted, his voice firm. "I'm not abandoning her, and I don't think you should either, especially given her mother's connection to the company." Richard's expression tightened. "What exactly has she told you about her mother?" "Nothing you couldn't tell me yourself," Ethan challenged. "Elena Vasquez, Project Eclipse, Warren Blake's involvement." The color drained from Richard's face. "You've been in my study. I'm trying to understand what we're dealing with. Harper is terrified of Warren, Dad. She says she saw him with the men who took her mother." Richard was silent for a long moment. "Warren has been with the company for 20 years. He's handled some of our most sensitive situations." "Handled?" Ethan repeated, remembering Harper's note. "Is that what happened to Elena Vasquez? She was handled." "You don't understand the complexities? Then explain them to me," Ethan demanded, "because I'm not letting Harper be handled too." Before Richard could respond, a scream echoed through the house. Harper's voice used for the first time since Ethan had known her. Both men rushed toward the sound, finding Harper backed against the wall in the hallway. Warren standing several feet away, hands raised in a gesture of innocence. "I merely asked if she was settling in," Warren explained smoothly. She became hysterical. Harper's eyes were wild with terror, her breathing ragged. When she saw Ethan, she ran to him, clinging to his wheelchair. "It's okay," Ethan soothed, glaring at Warren. "He won't hurt you." "This is becoming untenable," Warren said to Richard. "The press conference is tomorrow. We need her composed and cooperative, or the narrative falls apart." "Press conference?" Ethan asked. "What press conference?" "To formally announce the Montgomery Foundation's new initiative for homeless youth," Richard explained, inspired by Harper's story. "Using her as a PR stunt," Ethan translated bitterly, "without even asking us. It's an opportunity to turn this unfortunate situation into something positive," Warren insisted. "The company stock has fallen 15 points since your kidnapping. We need to reshape the narrative." Throughout this exchange, Harper's trembling had subsided, replaced by a still, focused alertness. She caught Ethan's eye and made a small gesture toward Warren's jacket pocket, where the outline of a key card was visible. Ethan understood immediately. The key to the guest house, possibly to filing cabinets or safes within it. Their next target. "Harper needs rest," Ethan announced. "This has all been too much, too fast. We'll be in my room." As they retreated, Ethan whispered, "Tonight, we find the truth." Harper nodded, determination hardening her features. In the desert, she had learned to fight for survival against the elements. Now she would fight against those who had stolen her mother and threatened her newfound family. The tiny, frightened girl from the bus was transforming into something else entirely, a force to be reckoned with. The guest house sat at the far edge of the Montgomery estate, a modern structure of glass and stone that served as a private retreat for important visitors. Now it housed Warren Blake, the man Harper identified as connected to her mother's disappearance. The same man who, according to the documents they'd photographed, had been deeply involved in Project Eclipse, alongside Elena Vasquez. Midnight found Ethan and Harper executing their plan. Mrs. Winters had retired hours ago, Richard was attending a late business dinner downtown, and the security staff maintained their usual perimeter patrols, leaving the main house largely unwatched. "Remember," Ethan whispered as Harper prepared to slip out through his bathroom window, "if you see any sign of Warren returning, abort immediately." Harper nodded, her expression resolute. In the days since arriving at the Montgomery estate, she'd begun to change. Though still silent around others, with Ethan she communicated more freely through notes and gestures. Her eyes, once constantly darting for escape routes, now held steady when she met his gaze. The knife remained her constant companion, but she wielded it now with purpose rather than fear. Ethan watched through the window as Harper's small figure darted across the moonlit lawn, using shadows and ornamental shrubs for cover. He turned to his laptop, where he'd hacked into the estate's security system. A red dot showed Warren's keycard had last been used at the downtown restaurant where Richard was dining. They had perhaps 2 hours before his return. His phone buzzed with a text from Jessica. "Found something on Elena Vasquez, call me." He dialed immediately. "I've been digging into employee records at Montgomery Innovations," Jessica said without preamble. "Elena Vasquez was officially terminated 4 years ago for corporate espionage. No police report was ever filed." "That makes no sense," Ethan frowned. "If she was stealing company secrets, why not press charges?" "Exactly. And here's where it gets interesting. 3 months before her termination, she filed a series of environmental safety reports about a project called Eclipse. All her concerns were dismissed by the corporate compliance officer." "Let me guess," Ethan interrupted. "Warren Blake." "How did you know?" "We found documents connecting them." "What was Project Eclipse?" "That's still unclear. Most references to it have been scrubbed from official records, but I found mention of testing sites in the Mojave, near where Harper was living." Ethan's blood ran cold. "The same area where I was abandoned." "It can't be coincidence," Jessica agreed. "Ethan, I'm worried about you both. If Warren Blake is involved in both Elena's disappearance and your kidnapping..." "He's in the house, Jess. Dad moved him into the guest house to handle the PR fallout. Get out of there now, both of you." "We can't, not without proof. Harper's gone to the guest house to look for evidence while Warren's out with Dad." "That's too dangerous. Call her back." "She doesn't have a phone, but she knows what she's doing, Jess. You didn't see her in the desert. She's survived worse than Warren Blake?" Even as he spoke, Ethan watched Harper's form slip inside the guest house through a partially open window. Pride mingled with fear as he thought of her courage. This girl who had spent years hiding from the world, now diving into danger to uncover the truth. "I've got eyes on the security cameras," he assured Jessica. "If Warren comes back early, I'll warn her." "I'm coming over," Jessica decided. "I can be there in 30 minutes. "No. Dad has the gate guards checking ID against an approved list. You'd never get in without raising alarms." "Then I'll park nearby and scale the wall if I have to." "This isn't a game, Ethan." Before he could argue further, a notification flashed on his screen. Warren's keycard being used at the estate's main gate. "He's back early," Ethan breathed. "I have to warn Harper." He hung up over Jessica's protests and frantically texted Harper's stolen phone. "Warren returning now. Get out." But the message remained undelivered. No signal in the guest house, or worse, she'd turned the phone off to avoid detection. Ethan watched in horror as the security feed showed Warren's car approaching the long driveway. Inside the guest house, Harper moved with practiced stealth. The desert had taught her patience and silence. How to listen for rattlesnakes before taking a step. How to walk without disturbing even loose sand. These skills served her well as she navigated the darkened rooms, photographing documents from Warren's briefcase. Most were meaningless to her, corporate jargon and financial projections, but one folder labeled Vasquez Situation sent her heart racing. Inside were photos of her mother's bus home, surveillance reports, and most chillingly, a document authorizing containment measures signed by Warren Blake and bearing Richard Montgomery's initials. A noise outside froze her in place, car tires on gravel. Harper quickly slid the folder back into the briefcase, but not before noticing a small safe in the office closet. The keypad lock matched the one she'd seen Warren use in Richard's study. Driven by instinct and desperation, she tried the same combination. The safe clicked open, revealing a single flash drive labeled Eclipse Contingencies and a handgun. Harper grabbed the drive and carefully reclosed the safe. Headlights swept across the windows as Warren's car pulled up. Harper slipped into a hallway closet just as the front door opened. Through the slats, she watched Warren enter, speaking angrily into his phone. "It's becoming unmanageable," he was saying. "The boy is asking questions about Eclipse. No, Montgomery doesn't suspect my involvement in the kidnapping, but he's growing uncomfortable with the girl's presence. Yes, I understand the board's concerns, but silencing a child requires more finesse than dealing with her mother." Harper's breath caught. Here was the confirmation. This man had been responsible for whatever happened to her mother. "The press conference tomorrow will be our opportunity," Warren continued. "Once the public narrative is established, we can relocate the girl permanently." "No, I don't anticipate resistance from Richard. He's too concerned with the company's image to object." Warren moved into the kitchen, his voice becoming inaudible. Harper seized the moment to slip from the closet and toward the window she'd entered through. She was halfway out when a floorboard creaked beneath her weight. "Who's there?" Warren called sharply. Harper froze, half in and half out of the window as Warren's footsteps approached. In one fluid motion, she pulled herself through the opening and dropped to the ground outside, pressing herself against the wall beneath the window. Warren's face appeared above her, scanning the darkness. After a moment, he closed and locked the window, muttering about paranoia. Harper waited until his footsteps receded before racing across the lawn toward the main house. As she ran, her mind processed what she'd heard. Warren had been involved in her mother's disappearance and Ethan's kidnapping. And tomorrow, at the press conference, he planned to relocate her permanently. Back in Ethan's room, their reunion was a flurry of silent, urgent communication. Harper showed him the flash drive and wrote frantically about Warren's phone conversation. Ethan's face grew increasingly pale as he read. "We need to tell my father," he insisted. Harper shook her head violently, writing, "He knew." His initials on paper. "He might not have understood what he was approving," Ethan argued. "Dad can be callous about business matters, but he wouldn't authorize harming someone." Harper's expression remained skeptical, but she didn't object further as Ethan plugged the flash drive into his laptop. The files were encrypted, but Ethan had been hacking his father's systems for years. Within minutes, he'd bypassed the security protocols, revealing dozens of documents about Project Eclipse, a Montgomery Innovations initiative to develop a revolutionary energy storage technology. "This doesn't seem sinister," Ethan frowned, scanning the technical specifications. "It's just a battery project." Harper pointed to a section detailing testing procedures, specifically the disposal of chemical byproducts. According to the document, the testing facility in the Mojave had been certified as environmentally compliant by Warren Blake himself, despite Elena Vasquez's repeated safety concerns. She was a whistleblower, Ethan realized. Mom was the head of the Environmental Compliance Division before she got sick. This would have been her department. Elena must have gone to her with concerns, and after Mom died, Harper completed his thought in writing. No one left to protect her. They delved deeper into the files, discovering evidence that Project Eclipse had caused significant groundwater contamination near the test site, precisely where Harper's bus home had been located. Elena had documented increased rates of illness in the sparse desert communities and had prepared to take her findings to the EPA. The final document was the most damning, a memo from Warren to Richard, dated the day before Elena's disappearance, warning that her whistleblowing posed an existential threat to the company and recommending decisive containment measures. Richard's response was a single line: "Handle it discreetly. No paper trail." Ethan stared at his father's words in disbelief. He couldn't have known what Warren would do. He wouldn't authorize... The sentence died on his lips as Harper showed him the surveillance photos of her mother's bus, taken before her disappearance, proving premeditation. "We need to get this to Jessica," Ethan decided, copying the files. "And we need to get out of here before the press conference tomorrow." A knock at the door startled them both. "Ethan," Richard's voice called. "Are you awake? We need to talk." Harper quickly hid the flash drive as Ethan moved to open the door. Richard entered, looking tired and troubled. He glanced at Harper, then back to his son. "I saw the light under your door," he explained. "It's late. We couldn't sleep," Ethan replied carefully. "What did you want to talk about?" Richard hesitated then. "I've been thinking about Harper's situation. After tomorrow's press conference, it might be best if she..." "If she what, Dad? Disappears like her mother did?" Richard's face paled. "What are you talking about?" "Project Eclipse, Elena Vasquez, the containment measures you authorized." "You've misunderstood," Richard said quickly. "Elena Vasquez was terminated for corporate espionage. She disappeared afterward. The company had nothing to do with it." "We have the files, Dad. Warren's records. Your emails." Richard sank onto the edge of Ethan's bed, suddenly looking older than his years. "Warren said he would handle a potential PR problem discreetly. I never imagined he would, that he could..." He looked at Harper, genuine horror in his eyes. "I didn't know." Harper studied him intently, then wrote, "But you didn't ask." The simple accusation hit harder than any shouted condemnation. Richard flinched as if struck. "You're right," he admitted quietly. "I didn't want to know." It was easier to accept Warren's solutions without questioning his methods. He took a deep breath. "But that ends now. Tomorrow, before the press conference, I'm going to announce Warren's termination and a full investigation into Project Eclipse." "He won't let that happen," Ethan warned. "He's already planning to relocate Harper permanently after the press conference, and he was involved in my kidnapping too." Richard's shock appeared genuine. "Your kidnapping? That's impossible. Warren has been working day and night to manage the crisis since you disappeared." "The perfect cover," Ethan pointed out. "He organizes my kidnapping, then positions himself as indispensable in managing the aftermath." Before Richard could respond, his phone rang. He checked the screen. "It's Warren," he answered on speaker. "Yes? Have you spoken with your son?" Warren's voice was tight with controlled anger. "I'm with him now. Why?" "The guest house has been breached. Someone accessed confidential files. The security cameras show your son's little desert pet breaking in." Richard met Harper's steady gaze. "I'll handle it, Warren. I've already called estate security. They're securing the premises now. No one leaves until we recover the stolen property." Richard ended the call, his decision made. "You need to go. Both of you. Now." "You believe us?" Ethan asked, surprised. "I believe I've been willfully blind," Richard replied, moving to Ethan's closet and pulling out a duffel bag. "Pack essentials only. I'll create a distraction to get you past security." As Ethan gathered clothes and medications, Richard turned to Harper. "I failed your mother," he said simply. "I won't fail you too." Harper held his gaze for a long moment, then did something unexpected. She extended her hand. Not in forgiveness, not yet, but in acknowledgement of his choice to help them now. Richard took her small hand in his, the touch brief but significant. Then he was moving with renewed purpose, outlining escape routes and safe contacts. Outside, security lights suddenly flooded the grounds as Warren mobilized the estate's defenses. The hunt had begun. The service elevator descended silently to the garage level, carrying Ethan, Harper, and Richard in tense silence. The estate's security system, designed to keep intruders out, now worked against them as they attempted to flee. Warren had already locked down the main gates, using his authority as head of crisis management to convince the security team that confidential company information had been stolen. "Take the Range Rover," Richard instructed, gesturing to a matte black SUV in the corner of the garage. "It has specialized hand controls installed for Ethan, reinforced security features, and a full tank of gas." He pressed a key fob into Ethan's hand. "The biometric security is already programmed to recognize you." "What about you?" Ethan asked, concern etched on his face. "I need to stay and contain Warren. And if I leave with you, it validates his claims that we're trying to hide something." Richard opened the vehicle's rear door, helping Ethan transfer from his wheelchair while Harper loaded their hastily packed bags. "Go to James Chen at the Los Angeles Times. He's a trustworthy investigative reporter who's been trying to get an expose on Montgomery innovations for years. I've stonewalled him, but he's thorough and ethical. Won't Warren just deny everything? It's our word against his." Richard reached into his pocket and produced a small recorder. "Not anymore. I recorded our conversation in your room, plus Warren's call. It's not enough for legal proceedings, but it creates reasonable doubt about his version of events." He handed the recorder to Harper, who tucked it securely into her backpack alongside the flash drive. The service gate at the north end of the property is minimally guarded, Richard continued. I've texted security that I'm sending a decoy vehicle out the main entrance to distract reporters. That should draw attention away from your exit. He glanced at his watch. You have maybe 5 minutes before Warren realizes I'm helping you. Ethan gripped his father's arm. Come with us, Dad. Warren is dangerous. All the more reason I need to face him directly. The company employs thousands of people. I can't let him destroy it with whatever he's planning. Richard's expression hardened with resolve. I built Montgomery Innovations. I let it become something my principals couldn't recognize. Now I need to fix that. The sound of the elevator returning to the main floor spurred them into action. Richard helped complete the transfer into the vehicle, folding Ethan's wheelchair into the cargo area. Detective Martinez is expecting you, he said, closing the doors. I called her while you were packing. Through the window, Ethan studied his father's face, the man who had always prioritized the company over everything else, now risking it all to protect them. Be careful, he said simply. Richard nodded, then turned to Harper, who watched him from the back seat with those solemn, evaluating eyes. I'll make this right, he promised her, for your mother and for you. Harper held his gaze, then did something that surprised them all. She spoke, her voice rough from disuse but clear. Actions, not words. Richard's eyes widened at hearing her speak, but he nodded in understanding. Actions it is. As they pulled away, Ethan glanced in the rearview mirror to see his father striding purposefully toward the elevator, shoulders squared, looking more like the man his mother had fallen in love with than the corporate titan he'd become. The service gate appeared ahead, a simple barrier with a single guard booth. Richard's distraction had worked. Only one board security officer remained, already raising the gate in response to the approaching vehicle. They were almost through when floodlights suddenly illuminated the area and a familiar black sedan screeched to a halt, blocking their path. Warren Blake emerged, his customary polish replaced by barely controlled fury. Stop right there, Ethan, he commanded, positioning himself in front of the Range Rover. You're making a terrible mistake. Ethan slowed the vehicle, but didn't stop completely. The only mistake was trusting you, he called through the partially opened window. Warren's laugh held no humor. Trust? Your father never trusted me. He merely found me useful for handling the company's complications. He stepped closer. Like your mother's environmental crusades that threatened the Eclipse project, like Elena Vasquez's inconvenient conscience, like your kidnapping, which was supposed to be a simple negotiation tactic, until those incompetent contractors abandoned you instead of following instructions. You're admitting to all of it? Ethan asked incredulously, aware that Harper was recording the conversation on her phone. Who would believe you? The traumatized kidnapping victim and a mute feral child. Warren's confidence was chilling. By morning, you'll both be discredited as emotionally unstable, and Richard will have suffered a regrettable stress-induced breakdown from nearly losing his son. In the back seat, Harper's expression darkened. She reached for the door handle, knife in hand. Don't, Ethan whispered. That's what he wants. Instead, he pressed the gas pedal, moving the Range Rover forward slowly but deliberately. Warren was forced to step aside or be bumped by the vehicle. You won't get far, Warren called after them. Every law enforcement agency in Southern California will be looking for you within the hour. They accelerated through the gate, the guard too confused by the confrontation to intervene. As they turned onto the private road leading away from the estate, Harper finally relaxed her white-knuckled grip on the knife. We got his confession, Ethan said triumphantly, holding up Harper's phone. He admitted to everything. Harper nodded, but her expression remained grave. She wrote quickly, he let us go too easily. The wisdom of her concern became apparent minutes later when patrol cars appeared behind them, lights flashing. Warren had wasted no time making good on his threat. Hold on, Ethan warned, taking a sharp turn onto a fire access road that wound into the hills above Bel Air. The specialized hand controls of the Range Rover responded to his expert touch. After years of wheelchair navigation, Ethan's hand-eye coordination was exceptional. The police followed initially, but the rough terrain gradually forced them to abandon pursuit. By the time Ethan and Harper reached a viewpoint overlooking the city, they were alone again. The glittering sprawl of Los Angeles spread beneath them like a circuit board of light. Ethan pulled into a secluded turnout and cut the engine. We need a plan. They'll be watching main roads and Jessica's place. Harper considered this, then wrote, "Need help. Your mother's friend?" "My mother's—" Ethan paused, realization dawning. "Dr. Kaplan, Mum's research partner before she got sick. She left the company when Dad prioritized profits over their original mission." He nodded enthusiastically. "She'd help us, and her home in Topanga Canyon is off the grid. Solar power, well water, the works." Harper nodded approvingly, recognizing the value of self-sufficiency. She pointed at Ethan's phone questioningly. "Can't risk it," he said. "If Warren has indeed involved the police, they could be tracking my phone." He removed the SIM card and battery, then did the same with Harper's phone. "We'll need to find a payphone." They drove cautiously through the hills, avoiding main arteries, until they found a gas station with an ancient payphone outside. Harper stood guard while Ethan made the call, explaining their situation in hurried whispers to his mother's old friend. Dr. Samantha Kaplan's response was immediate and unequivocal. "Come now, use the North Trail entrance. Shall meet you there." Back in the Range Rover, they plotted a circuitous route to Topanga Canyon, using back roads and fire trails where possible. Harper kept watch for pursuit, her desert-honed senses alert to any change in their surroundings. As they drove, Ethan glanced at his unlikely companion. "You spoke," he said softly. "To my father." Harper nodded, her expression thoughtful. After a moment, she wrote, "Words have power. Use them only when necessary. Is it hard, speaking after being silent so long?" She considered this, then wrote, "Silence was safety. Speaking is choice." The simple profundity of her statement struck Ethan deeply. In her years alone, Harper had developed a wisdom beyond her years, a philosophy of survival that extended beyond mere physical endurance to encompass a careful stewardship of her own power. They reached Topanga Canyon near midnight, abandoning the main road for a dirt track that wound up into the densely wooded hills. The Range Rover's off-road capabilities were tested as they climbed higher, finally reaching a gate marked only with a small ceramic tile bearing a stylized tree. As promised, Dr. Kaplan waited there, a tall woman in her 60s with silver-streaked hair pulled back in a practical braid, wearing work boots and a flannel shirt despite the late hour. She helped transfer Ethan to a waiting all-terrain wheelchair, then led them along a path to a modern cabin nestled among ancient oak trees. Inside, the space was warm and lived in, with walls of books, scientific equipment sharing space with pottery and art, and large windows that would offer spectacular views by daylight. Dr. Kaplan moved efficiently, preparing tea and setting out food, while Ethan connected their devices to her secure computer system. "Grace always said you had her problem-solving mind," Dr. Kaplan observed, watching Ethan work. "She'd be proud of you standing up to Richard and that snake Warren Blake." "You knew Warren?" Ethan asked, surprised. "I knew to avoid him," she corrected. "Your mother and I both recognized the danger he represented. A man who saw ethics as obstacles to overcome rather than principles to uphold." She turned to Harper, studying her with kind but assessing eyes. "And you must be Elena's daughter. I remember when you were born. Your mother brought you to the lab sometimes. She was so proud of you." Harper stared at her, shocked at this unexpected connection to her past. "Elena was brilliant," Dr. Kaplan continued. "She designed the original containment protocols for Project Eclipse before she realized the full environmental implications." She sighed heavily. "When she brought her concerns to Grace and me, we supported her. But after Grace's illness progressed and I left the company, Eleanor was vulnerable." "You knew my mother was in danger and did nothing?" Ethan asked, her edge to his voice. Dr. Kaplan's expression was pained. "I tried to convince her to leave, to take Harper and start fresh elsewhere. But she believed in the system, thought that documentation and proper channels would protect her." She shook her head sadly. "I underestimated Warren's influence and Richard's willingness to look the other way." Harper had been writing while they talked. She held up her notebook. "Need evidence for police, for justice." "The flash drive and recordings are a start," Ethan said, "but Warren will claim they're fabricated or taken out of context. What you need," Dr. Kaplan suggested, "is the Eclipse testing site itself. If Elena's environmental concerns were valid, and I'm certain they were, the evidence of contamination would still be present. The site would be secured, monitored," Ethan objected. "Not necessarily," Dr. Kaplan countered. "Montgomery Innovations officially shuttered the project 2 years ago. On paper, the site was decommissioned and remediated, but proper environmental cleanup would have cost millions. Money, Warren would have argued, was unnecessary for an abandoned desert facility. Harper was already nodding, writing rapidly. "I know where. Restricted area near my bus. Warning signs. Guards sometimes." Dr. Kaplan spread a topographical map across the table. "Show me." Harper pointed to an area of the Mojave about 5 miles from where she'd found Ethan. Dr. Kaplan marked it, then pulled up satellite imagery on her computer. The site appeared to be a cluster of industrial buildings surrounded by a perimeter fence, much of it already being reclaimed by the desert. "I have equipment that can test for the specific chemical compounds Eclipse would have produced," Dr. Kaplan said. "Portable, accurate, and, most importantly, time-stamped and GPS tagged. Irrefutable evidence." "So we go back to the desert?" Ethan asked, looking at Harper. She nodded, a fierce determination in her eyes. She wrote, "For my mother. For truth. It won't be easy," Dr. Kaplan warned. "By now, Warren will have convinced Richard that you've both had some kind of breakdown. He'll frame the evidence you've gathered as delusions or manipulations. Then we need more than just evidence," Ethan realized. "We need a platform that Warren can't control." He turned to Dr. Kaplan. "You mentioned James Chen at the Los Angeles Times, the reporter my father suggested. Could you contact him? Get him to meet us at the Eclipse site?" "A public exposé," Dr. Kaplan nodded approvingly. "Warren could suppress internal investigations or even local police reports, but not a major newspaper story with physical evidence." They worked through the night, Harper and Dr. Kaplan preparing testing equipment, while Ethan compiled their evidence into a coherent narrative. By dawn, they had a plan. Return to the desert, document the contamination at the Eclipse site, and meet with Chen to break the story before Warren could complete his takeover at Montgomery Innovations. As they loaded Dr. Kaplan's truck, Ethan received a text on the burner phone she had provided. Jessica had been suspended from duty after trying to open an investigation into Warren Blake. Richard Montgomery had been hospitalized for exhaustion, with Warren named as temporary CEO by the board of directors. "He's moving faster than we anticipated," Dr. Kaplan said grimly. "We need to hurry." As the sun rose over the canyon, Harper stood for a moment at the edge of the property, looking east toward the desert that had been both her prison and her sanctuary. For years she had survived by hiding, by remaining silent and invisible. Now she was choosing a different path, one that required her to be seen and perhaps to be heard. Ethan rolled up beside her, following her gaze. "Are you ready for this?" he asked gently. Harper turned to him, her expression serene despite the dangers ahead. For the second time since he'd known her, she spoke aloud, her voice stronger now, resolute. "I was born ready." Together, they headed down the mountain toward the desert, toward the truth that had remained buried for too long, and toward a confrontation that would either deliver justice or destroy them both. The Mojave Desert shimmered under the midday sun, heat waves distorting the horizon as Dr. Kaplan's truck navigated the rugged terrain. Harper sat in the passenger seat, her posture growing increasingly alert as they approached familiar territory. Ethan watched from the back seat as the landscape transformed from alien to intimate through her eyes, each rock formation and Joshua tree a landmark in the geography of her solitary life. They crested a ridge, and Harper pointed silently at a distant structure gleaming in the sun, the water tower she and Ethan had used to guide Jessica to them days earlier. Nearby sat the junkyard with her bus home, appearing small and vulnerable in the vast desert expanse. "The Eclipse facility is just beyond that next ridge," Dr. Kaplan said, consulting the GPS. "We should approach on foot from here to avoid detection." They parked the truck in the shadow of a rocky outcropping. Transferring Ethan to his all-terrain wheelchair, a robust model Dr. Kaplan had borrowed from an adaptive sports program she volunteered with, took several minutes. Harper used the time to scan their surroundings with the focused attention of a desert creature, alert to any sign of danger. "James Chen will meet us at these coordinates in 2 hours, Dr. Kaplan said, checking her watch. "That gives us enough time to collect samples and documentation before he arrives." They moved carefully across the desert floor, Harper naturally taking the lead, finding the path of least resistance for Ethan's wheelchair. The facility gradually came into view, a compound of low industrial buildings surrounded by chain-link fencing topped with barbed wire. Warning signs bearing Montgomery Innovations logo hung at intervals, their bright colors faded by years of sun exposure. No guards, Ethan observed. That's something at least. Don't be too relieved, Dr. Kaplan cautioned. There may be automated security systems or motion sensors. Harper pointed to a section of fence, partially collapsed under the weight of a fallen Joshua tree. She pantomimed their entry route, indicating a blind spot in what appeared to be camera coverage. She knows this place, Ethan realized. You've been inside before, haven't you? Harper nodded, then wrote, Mother brought me once, before. Later, I watched from hills. They approached the compromised section of fence. Dr. Kaplan went first, then helped maneuver Ethan's wheelchair through the opening while Harper kept watch. Once inside the perimeter, they moved quickly toward the main building, its windows broken, desert sand already beginning to reclaim the concrete structures. Look for drainage areas, collection ponds, anywhere chemicals might have concentrated, Dr. Kaplan instructed, unpacking her testing equipment. Harper led them confidently around the building to a series of large, shallow depressions in the ground, evaporation pools where liquid waste had once been left to dry in the desert sun. Though long since evaporated, the soil retained a distinctive discoloration and crystalline residue. Dr. Kaplan worked methodically, collecting soil samples from various depths, photographing the site with a camera that embedded GPS coordinates and timestamps into each image, and using specialized equipment to test for chemical signatures in real time. The levels are still dangerously high, she confirmed grimly, showing them a digital readout. Heavy metals, industrial solvents, compounds specific to the Eclipse battery technology, all present at concentrations well above legal limits. This is exactly what Elena was concerned about. Will it be enough? Ethan asked. Combined with the documentation you've gathered? Absolutely. This proves that Montgomery Innovations knowingly contaminated groundwater and soil, then failed to properly remediate the site as claimed in their official reports. Harper had wandered a short distance away, examining something half buried in the sand. She beckoned them over, her expression troubled. Partially exposed by erosion was a large metal container, its lid secured with heavy bolts. Dr. Kaplan approached cautiously, examining the container without touching it. This shouldn't be here. According to the decommissioning reports I reviewed, all waste materials were supposed to be removed and transported to approved disposal facilities. Using tools from her testing kit, she carefully collected samples from around the container's seal, where traces of its contents had leached into the surrounding soil. The testing equipment registered immediate concern, red warning indicators flashing. This is significantly worse than the evaporation pools, she said, her voice tight. These readings suggest highly toxic materials improperly stored. If there are more containers like this one, there are, Harper wrote, pointing to subtle depressions in the ground extending in a grid pattern away from the building. Many. The implications were staggering, not just negligence, but a deliberate decision to bury toxic waste rather than pay for proper disposal, creating an environmental catastrophe waiting to happen if the containers eventually breached. As they documented this discovery, Ethan's burner phone vibrated with a text from James Chen. On my way. ETA 30 min. Not alone. Not alone, Ethan read aloud, concern edging his voice. What does that mean? Could be a photographer, another reporter, Dr. Kaplan suggested, but her tone lacked conviction. Harper was already moving, her posture tense as she climbed onto a concrete platform that offered a view of the access road. She returned quickly, writing with urgent strokes. Many vehicles coming, not just one. They gathered their equipment hastily, retreating to the building's shadow to observe the approaching dust cloud. Through binoculars, Dr. Kaplan confirmed their fears, multiple black SUVs bearing Montgomery Innovations security markings, followed by what appeared to be private security contractors. Warren must have tracked us somehow, Ethan said, or figured out our plan. We need to leave, now. Dr. Kaplan began packing her equipment. No, Harper wrote, her expression resolute. Need evidence. Need reporter. Harper's right, Ethan agreed. If we run, Warren wins. Again, they retreated inside the main building, finding positions that allowed them to observe the approaching vehicles while remaining hidden. Harper, drawing on years of desert survival, identified multiple escape routes and indicated them to her companions. The vehicles arrived in a coordinated formation, disgorging security personnel who quickly established a perimeter. Among them emerged a familiar figure, Warren Blake, immaculate despite the desert heat, directing operations with cold efficiency. "Find them!" His voice carried through the broken windows. "Secure any equipment or materials they've tampered with." Behind the security team came a single sedan from which emerged James Chen, looking distinctly uncomfortable, and Richard Montgomery moving with the careful steps of someone recently released from medical care. "Dad," Ethan whispered, stunned. "Warren insisted I come," Richard was saying to Chen as they approached the building. "He claims Ethan and a disturbed girl are trespassing, possibly contaminating evidence in an ongoing internal investigation." "That's not what you told me on the phone," Chen replied skeptically. "You said your son had uncovered serious environmental violations that Warren was trying to cover up." Richard was confused at the time. Warren interjected smoothly. The stress of his son's kidnapping, combined with certain medications. The doctors have advised against taking his recent statements too literally. From their hiding place, Ethan felt a surge of anger at Warren's manipulation. "We need to reach my father before Warren completely discredits him." Harper held up her hand in a waiting gesture, her attention focused on Richard, who was surveying the facility with growing concern. "Why wasn't I informed about these storage containers?" Richard demanded, pointing to the partially exposed waste repository they had discovered. "The decommissioning report stated all hazardous materials had been properly disposed of." "A regrettable clerical error," Warren replied dismissively. "We're addressing it internally." "This isn't a clerical error," Richard's voice hardened. "This is deliberate concealment of toxic waste, exactly what Elena Vasquez reported before her disappearance." Warren's composure flickered briefly. "Richard, you're still not thinking clearly. Let's continue this discussion back in Los Angeles." "I'm thinking more clearly than I have in years," Richard countered, turning to Chen. "This is what I contacted you about. My company buried hazardous waste instead of disposing of it properly, then covered up the evidence, and when Elena Vasquez threatened to expose it, Warren had her silenced." "Careful, Richard." Warren's voice dropped to a dangerous register. "You're making accusations without evidence, potentially exposing yourself and the company to serious liability." "We have the evidence," Ethan called out, rolling his wheelchair into view. "All of it." The security team immediately tensed, hands moving to weapons, but Richard's authoritative gesture froze them in place. "That's my son. No one touches him." Harper and Dr. Kaplan emerged from hiding, the latter carrying her testing equipment and sample collection kit. Harper moved to Ethan's side, her knife visible but not brandished, her stance protective but not threatening. "Ethan!" Richard's voice cracked with emotion. "Are you all right?" "Better than you, apparently," Ethan replied, noting his father's pallor and the slight tremor in his hands. "What did Warren do to you?" "Merely ensured he received proper medical attention during a stressful time," Warren interjected smoothly. "Richard has been working too hard, worrying too much." "Drugged to keep me compliant," Richard corrected bluntly, "until I started refusing the medication they insisted I needed." James Chen had been observing the exchange with professional intensity, recording on his phone. Now he addressed Warren directly. "Mr. Blake, are you denying the allegations regarding improper waste disposal and the disappearance of Elena Vasquez? These are the delusional claims of a traumatized boy, a mute feral child, and a disgruntled former employee," Warren dismissed, though his usual polish was beginning to crack. "Montgomery Innovations follows all environmental regulations scrupulously." "Then you won't mind if we test that claim." Dr. Kaplan stepped forward, displaying her equipment. "I've already collected samples showing contamination levels far exceeding legal limits, with chemical signatures specific to Project Eclipse, all documented with GPS coordinates and timestamps." Warren's facade finally slipped, revealing the calculated ruthlessness beneath. "Security!" he barked. "Confiscate that equipment. It's company property stolen by Dr. Kaplan when she left Montgomery Innovations." "Stand down," Richard countermanded. "No one touches anything without my authorization." "You've been relieved of your position," Warren reminded him. "The board has granted me temporary control due to your health concerns." "A decision made under false pretenses and without proper procedure," Richard replied. "I've already spoken with 3 board members this morning who were quite surprised to learn of my miraculous recovery." Warren's expression darkened as he realized his carefully constructed narrative was unraveling. He turned to the security team. "Remove them from the premises, all of them." The security personnel hesitated, caught between conflicting orders from the company's founder and its acting CEO. In that moment of uncertainty, Harper made her move, not attacking, but communicating. She approached Richard directly, holding out her mother's photograph, then pointing to the exposed waste container, making the connection explicit. Harper believes her mother discovered these improperly stored chemicals and was preparing to report them, Ethan explained. The same day Warren told you he would handle the situation discreetly, Elena Vasquez disappeared, leaving Harper alone. And 4 years later, when Ethan was kidnapped and abandoned in the same area, Dr. Kaplan added, it created a dangerous connection that might expose the original cover-up. Richard took the photograph, looking from Elena's face to Harper's with dawning horror. Warren told me Elena had stolen proprietary technology, that she'd fled to avoid prosecution. He turned to Warren, decades of trust crumbling into dust. What did you do? Warren's composure finally shattered. What was necessary? What you lacked the courage to do yourself? Eclipse was going to revolutionize energy storage, make Montgomery Innovations the most valuable company on the planet. I wasn't about to let one bleeding-heart environmentalist destroy everything we'd built. His confession hung in the desert air, captured clearly on Chen's recording device and the equipment Dr. Kaplan had discreetly activated. Warren realized his error too late, his gaze darting between the faces surrounding him, calculating his dwindling options. This changes nothing, he declared, desperation edging his voice. The waste is contained. The site is remote. The company's contributions to clean energy research far outweigh any localized environmental impact. Tell that to the communities downstream whose water you poisoned, Dr. Kaplan countered. Tell that to Elena Vasquez, who tried to prevent this and paid with her life. You can't prove I had anything to do with her disappearance, Warren insisted. And as for the boy's kidnapping, regrettable freelance operators exceeding their instructions, I merely wanted him temporarily detained as leverage to prevent Richard from making hasty decisions about the company's future. James Chen stepped forward, his journalistic instincts overriding any caution. Mr. Blake, are you admitting to orchestrating Ethan Montgomery's kidnapping? Warren realized he had said too much. His expression hardened as he reached inside his jacket, for a phone, perhaps, or something more dangerous. But Harper moved faster. In one fluid motion, she knocked his hand away, then swept his legs from beneath him, sending him sprawling into the desert dust. Security personnel moved to intervene, but Richard's commanding voice stopped them. Stand down. Warren Blake is no longer employed by Montgomery Innovations, effective immediately. His instructions are void. As Warren was restrained by his own security team in a final irony, Richard approached Harper and Ethan. I failed you both, he said simply. I failed Elena. I failed the communities affected by this contamination, but I promise you that failure ends today. He turned to James Chen. Montgomery Innovations will cooperate fully with your investigation. We will remediate this site properly, compensate affected communities, and accept whatever legal consequences apply. The company I built lost its way, but perhaps it can still find redemption. Chen nodded, already composing his headline. And Elena Vasquez? Richard looked to Harper, his expression grave. With Harper's permission, we'll reopen the investigation into her mother's disappearance, with full transparency and cooperation with law enforcement. He hesitated, then added softly, though I fear we already know the outcome. Harper met his gaze steadily, then did something unexpected. She reached for his hand and placed it alongside Ethan's, joining them. The gesture was clear, accountability joined with opportunity for redemption. 3 months later, the Montgomery Estate Gardens hosted a small gathering beneath the autumn sun. Harper stood before an audience of selected guests, Richard, Ethan, Jessica, Dr. Kaplan, and a few others who had become part of her expanding world. Dressed simply but with newfound confidence, she held a sheet of paper that trembled slightly in her hands. My name is Harper Vasquez Montgomery, she began, her voice soft but clear, no longer rough from disuse. This is the first time I've spoken to a group since I was 6 years old. The adoption had been finalized the previous week, after Warren Blake's trial had concluded with multiple convictions. Montgomery Innovations was under new leadership. Richard had stepped down as CEO to focus on environmental remediation efforts, and the Harper Vasquez Foundation, created to support environmental whistleblowers and children in crisis. In the desert, Harper continued, reading from her paper. Silence kept me alive. I learned to move without sound, to watch without being seen, to survive without being noticed. She paused, gathering courage. But silence can also be a prison. My mother's voice was silenced when she tried to protect our Earth and our community. My voice silenced itself as protection. Ethan watched from beside her, pride evident in his expression. The month since their desert ordeal had transformed them both. His newest wheelchair design, created with Harper's practical input, had already attracted attention from adaptive technology companies. Her educational progress had been remarkable, her intelligence finally nurtured after years of survival-focused existence. Today I choose to speak, Harper continued, her confidence growing with each word. For my mother, who can no longer speak for herself, for the desert that sheltered me, for others who remain silent out of fear. She looked up from her paper, making eye contact with her small audience. The strongest roots grow in the harshest soil. They reach deeper, hold tighter, become more resilient. After the ceremony, Harper and Ethan visited the desert one last time. At the site where he had been abandoned and she had found him, they planted a Joshua tree sapling, a symbol of resilience in harsh conditions. Beside it, they buried a time capsule containing mementos of their journey. The rusted pocket knife that had cut Ethan's bonds, a photograph of Eleanor, a small gear from Harper's makeshift wheelchair. As they worked, Harper spoke more freely than she ever had before. "The desert taught me to survive," she said, patting soil around the sapling's base. "You taught me to live again." Ethan smiled, adjusting his position in his wheelchair. "We taught each other. I was trapped by privilege the way you were trapped by poverty. We both needed rescuing." Harper considered this, then nodded. Different prisons, same freedom. As the sun began its descent, casting long shadows across the Mojave landscape, they gazed at their planted tree, a life taking root where once there had been only abandonment and isolation. "Will it survive?" Ethan wondered aloud. Harper's smile held the wisdom of the desert and the hope of her new beginning. "It already has." They returned to the waiting vehicle where Richard and Jessica stood talking quietly. The investigation into Elena's disappearance continued, but Harper had found a measure of peace, knowing that her mother's fight for environmental justice would finally be vindicated. That evening, as they drove back toward Los Angeles, Harper watched the desert recede in the rearview mirror. Once her entire world, now it was a chapter in a longer story. She placed her hand over the adoption papers in her pocket. Harper Vasquez Montgomery, no longer a ghost child living between the cracks of society, but a person with a name, a family, a voice, and a future. Beside her, Ethan dozed against the window, exhausted from their day in the sun. Looking at him, Harper felt a surge of the fierce protectiveness that had first prompted her to cut a stranger's bonds in the desert. But now it was tempered with something else, not just the instinct to defend, but the capacity to build. Together they had created something neither could have managed alone. A bridge between worlds, a family forged in fire, a truth that refused to remain buried beneath the desert sand.